online, actually. And I will call the meeting to order. I think, Madam Clerk, do we have, it looks like we have a quorum. Would you check?
Yes, we have everyone.
Okay, all right. So with that, would you call the roll, please?
Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Varga?
Present.
Commissioner Marecki?
Here.
Commissioner Baydoun?
Here.
Commissioner Kinlock?
Here.
Chair Anderson?
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Could I get as far as my own remarks, I'll have a couple of questions as we go along, but there's really nothing. I want to welcome our new commissioner and welcome Jonathan Kinlock, Commissioner Kinlock, to the committee. And yeah, I look forward to working with you. And that's all I have right now. I know we did not have a December meeting, but so we've got a little catching up to go through with the support of our council. And the only thing I have, like I said, I'll have a couple questions as we go along. But if I could get a motion to approve the November 19th, 2020 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes have been approved. And we'll move on to new business. Madam Clerk.
Item D1 under new business is an update from James Heath, Jay Shander, and Victoria Ennis Edwards regarding the status of the criminal justice complex.
Members will notice that, this is the primary, this is for the benefit of Commissioner Kinlock, that we are getting regular updates. If you find that you're not getting them, please let me know. But the representatives of the administration here, James Heath and Victoria, it's the folks that have been on providing us information have done so on a regular basis. I know we did get a report that looks like it just came through about 5 minutes ago, but I've asked Mr. Heath if you can make sure we get those earlier so we have time to go through them. But it looked like there was a report that just came through about 5 minutes till before the meeting started. If we can get those further ahead, certainly would appreciate it. But everyone should get that. If they haven't already got it in their email, you should be able to find it there today. And we can have any questions at the next meeting. If there's something in that report that you have a question about, or certainly you can contact myself or Mr. Heath and get an answer before that. But with that, Mr. Heath, would you lead us off with the update?
Sure. Thank you very much, Commissioner Anderson. James Heath, Wayne County Corporation Counsel. I do apologize. I thought that we had gotten the report out as late as yesterday, but I take responsibility for if it just came to your inboxes just recently. And so as I indicated at the end of last year, that's something that we certainly are working on and getting the information to you in a more timely fashion so that we can so that you can have information that you need. And so that continues to be something we're working on, Commissioner. And before we get the project finished, we will make some real progress there with you. I'll ask Victoria, Carter, Jay, and Bill Rath to join me at the virtual table for some of our remarks. But first, I want to introduce to all of you a new member of our CGL team who just joined us effectively at the very end of last year, and he's already knee deep in everything we're doing with the project. and that's Bill Rath. And Bill comes to us with a wealth of experience, and he's jumped in feet first in helping us as we navigate with both the contractor and the developer on this site. And so, Bill, would you come forward and state your name and give the commissioners a little bit about your background and the role you're playing with the project?
Sure. Thank you, James. And I'd like to say hello to everyone gathered today for this discussion. As far as my education experience, I have an undergraduate in architecture, a graduate degree in business from the University of Michigan. I bring to the table 30 plus years of experience managing complex programs on behalf of clients. I spent the last 10 or 11 years in Dearborn, Michigan, associated with the Ford Motor Company through a global corporate real estate firm called CBRE. I was a director of project management there for a decade. And prior to that, about 10 years working with Pfizer Global Research and Development in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Some of you might be familiar with what is today the University of Michigan North Campus that they purchased from Pfizer back in 2007 or 2008. So I was deeply involved in that process for about a decade also. I also have earlier in my career experience working in the city of Chicago with a number of public agencies on civic infrastructure projects. So I'm familiar with public works and sensitivities associated therewith. So I believe my experience prepares me for my senior program management role in this regard. It's a pleasure to join CGL. Jay and others on the team have a tremendous depth of experience, cross-functional experience in the planning, design, and construction delivery of criminal justice facilities. So thrilled to be here. Open to questions as you may have, and look forward to being part of the process. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Bill. Jay is on the call, and I will ask him to kind of walk us through kind of the new items with respect to construction. We did not, as you said, Commissioner, meet in the month of December. So some of the things that he may bring up have, happened as much of as a month ago, but just to kind of give you a general overview of what has happened recently, as well as what we can expect over the next month or two on the project. Keep in mind that some of this stuff is also detailed in the report that everyone hopefully has received, and so you'll be able to see some of the things that Jay's going to discuss there as well. So, Jay.
Sure, James. Good afternoon, Commission. I'll just kind of give you a overview of what's been going on the site, and we'll just attack it by each building. Currently, the CJC progress is approximately 42% complete. We have installed, or Bart Mello has installed, weather barriers around all of the buildings in order to kind of maintain an ambient temperature on the interior of at least about 50 degrees. So allows the craft to continue their work. And they provided a natural gas temporary setup to provide the heat to the building. Currently on the site, we're about 12%. We continue with sanitary and underground stormwater piping, continues installation. The ADF, the Adult Detention Facility, is approximately 38% complete. They continue to install and align and erect the metal panels for the 8-man cells, and they are currently installing the mezzanine decks in the 1 single-man cells. Mechanical, electrical, fireproofing, fire protection is still ongoing, and roof curb and roofing is beginning, and they should have that completed by the end of the month. The JDF, the Juvenile Detention Facility, they're continuing on the erection of the exterior concrete panels and beginning to pour slab-on grades within the building. The Sheriff's Office and Prosecutor Building, 36% complete. Framing of the walls, meaning interior walls are being erected. Mechanical duct piping and electrical rough ends is ongoing. Installation of the roof and the vapor barrier continues. And the masonry is started around the stairwells within the building. And the first floor concrete slab on grade was poured recently. The courts building, the 7-story building, continue the installation of the east side curtain wall framing. When I talk about curtain wall, I mean it's the framing that they utilize to install all the glass that'll be shown on the exterior of the building. All that framing has to be completed before they install the glazing. Detention holding cells are still ongoing on the 3rd, 4th, and 6th level. And these are the detention holding cells prior to bringing the inmates into the courtroom. The maintenance building is ongoing, and this CUP, which is the central utility plant, they're currently 61% there. A lot of work has been done there just to get this temporary heat going. Boilers, chillers, generators have all been installed. Mechanical and electrical connectivity is ongoing, and they are beginning the installation of the exterior metal siding and insulation. That is an overview of the construction activities on site. If anybody has any particular questions.
I just wanted to ask one, and James, I'm not sure if it would be yourself. I would assume it would be you. Are we still along the same timeline, completion timeline that we had anticipated as of November or December?
Yeah, there's been no change to that since our last discussion, Commissioner.
Okay, all right. Do you want to have Victoria?
I would. I guess there's no more questions on construction issues for Jay.
Let me just go around the table here for commissioners, committee members. Are there any questions so far?
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, I think you asked the question I was about to ask. So are we on schedule? We're looking still at the end of 2022?
Correct, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
correct.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. Yes. As you know, this development, the construction of this Justice Center over in that area, when it was first announced, brought out a lot of concerns from the residents over there. Is there a regular communication outside of communications that may have come from the commissioner's office regarding updates that are being given to stakeholders in that area?
We do receive something that comes in periodically from Tim Johnson, who receives it from the folks on the scene.
No, I was talking about the county. I'm talking about the county executives. From the county standpoint, are they communicating with stakeholders outside of what we get?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So are they on regular communication with the individuals who had interest in this development, who reside in that impacted area?
Yeah, I can answer that, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah. So Commissioner Kinlock, the answer to that is that no, we are not engaged in regular communication in terms of a community-wide outreach about the progress of the site. You know, part of that reason, quite frankly, is that prior to the last couple of months, I don't know that the site was looking like an ADF or JDF in county offices. And to be quite frank with you, I don't know, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, from the county side, I don't know that we've received questions from the community about the update of the construction project, except from local business community that Victoria can attest to, in terms of contractors and other entities who are interested in becoming involved with the work of the project and actually constructing it. But You do raise a good point. I was not on board when the initial kind of community vetting occurred, but I would imagine that as we get closer to completion and as we move into warmer months, it may make sense to have some sort of outreach that can, address questions that folks in the community have. And so that's taken that we'll take into account. And frankly, if that's something that with it being within your district, Commissioner, if that's something that you'd like to work with us,
yes, please.
We'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will circle back around with you all in regards to that.
Absolutely, and and to that point, if and even before we get kind of a comprehensive review on it, if there are particular questions that members of your community have about the site, you can feel free to reach out to me or Victoria, Carter Fisher, who I'll introduce you to as well, to have any of those questions answered. But a more standard meeting, if that's something that you're interested in, we'd be happy to do so. I do believe, frankly, and you would know better than I, but I do believe that Commissioner Ware, in various newsletters that she sent out, did give an update to members of the community. And so if that's something you wish to continue, we can make sure that you have the content that you need to be as informative to the citizens in your district as possible. So we'd be happy to
yes, if you can do that, provide that, because I'm looking to have a newsletter prepared as we speak. Yeah.
Certainly. And if you, I don't know if you hold district meetings or like, but we, however you'd like to handle it, we'll do our best to accommodate.
Thank you.
Kinloch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Anderson?
Yes,
I
Commissioner Baydoun.
Since I'm new to this committee and I know Mr. Heath answered the question that we're on schedule, but obviously you all know that COVID-19 has impacted us in every way we can imagine. Do you expect, Mr. Heath, any because of the labor, the cost of material, where do we stand in terms of cost overrun? Do you have any idea, any projections? Has COVID impacted our progress on this project?
So we lost about 44 days around about that, Commissioner Baydoun, when COVID hit, and that was primarily as a result of the governor's executive order regarding construction activity. And so we did have a kind of a ramp up following that order, in which we had to do some additional training for the construction workers regarding COVID protocols and the like. And, it just kind of took time to get ramped back up. As of today, we're averaging about 415 to 445 workers on site. That is a full complement, given the trades which are working there. At the end of last year, we were having some discussions with the developer and the contractor about how COVID would impact our schedule. We have taken those issues into account when I give you that end of 2022 timeframe. And so at this point, we do not anticipate any movement on that. But certainly if something happens that we can't anticipate, this committee, as always, will be the first to know. In terms of cost overruns, the structure of our agreement with the developer is that the county put in a certain amount of money towards the project, and any cost overruns are the responsibility of the developer.
Yeah.
With respect to changes in the amount that the county will end up putting towards the project, really those come in the form of change orders that the county deems necessary. And so, for instance, I think probably sometime in the fall of last year, with the suggestion of Chairman Anderson and other members of commission staff, we developed a process, and the entire commission approved a process for reviewing change orders with respect to the project. The development agreement gives us a pretty tight time frame for approving changes that the county requests. And so it was just difficult for us to convene the entire commission. And so we have a panel which has met once to address changes to the project. And that last change was with respect to cafeteria in the facility. We initially designed the project with a cold cafeteria in mind, so where people could come and get salads, cold sandwiches, those sorts of things. But as we discussed the issue with our end users, certainly as we got into this COVID process and it became more difficult for people to leave the workplace and, travel to, wherever they may want to get a hot meal or something like that, we thought that it would be best to transform that cold cafeteria into one that was able to serve hot food. And so that came, as you can imagine, at a cost. And so the total cost for that that we asked for the panel to consider was just over $550,000. That included design change costs and other things that we needed to change in order to make that a fully functioning hot cafeteria. And the process that we worked with your staff to develop, I think, worked extremely well in that we were able to discuss the matter, get a unanimous approval from the folks on the executive side, and the members from your side. Commissioner Anderson was a part of that as well. And so those are the sorts of changes that you can expect in terms of the county putting in additional funds, Commissioner. And we don't see those as overruns, just simply efforts that we make the project eventually better. And so that's, we try to keep those at a minimum. I think we've done a really good job of that. The most impactful one is the one that you will remember from last summer in terms of the central utility plant, which obviously the entire commission reviewed and approved. And so, we don't expect COVID to cause us to have to spend more money from the county side. When we do spend more money, it's because we're taking steps to make the entire project better. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. James, I did, since you did mention the change order for the cafeteria, has there been any progress as far as the contract negotiation with that vendor that is going to offset that cost?
So I'm going to ask Carter Fisher to give a kind of a general overview. That was a part of your, we mentioned it in your packet, so certainly there's some information that we should probably talk about right now, but not wanting to give, as things are not been concluded, don't want to give any definitive statements, but I can let Carter give an overview of kind of where we stand and what's been happening with that.
Okay.
Sure. So Carter Fisher with Wayne County Corporation Council. Good afternoon to everyone. So we began the process more than a year ago now of seeking out vendors for this space in conjunction with seeking out vendors for the adult detention facilities cafeteria, just in case there were any synergies that folks wanted to combine on. And ultimately, from the RFP process, we selected A&A Deli to run the cafeteria, the public-facing cafeteria. And A&A Deli is the vendor that currently provides food services in the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice, for anyone who's familiar with that area. So we've been working with him on design work, on some of the requested infrastructural changes that we made of rock to convert from a cold kitchen to a hot kitchen that James mentioned earlier. And he's been a really valuable partner in that process to date. We are still negotiating the contract with him. He has agreed in principle to pay for $300,000 of the change cost that James mentioned already, which would be the cost for him to build out things like tables, countertops, the refrigeration capacity, and just the finishing out the space pretty much. We've also started negotiating with him on how much he'd be willing to pay for the infrastructural costs that Rob proposed to us, which come in at a little over $215,000. And those infrastructural costs include design changes to the building to allow, for instance, a ventilation shaft to run up through the building vertically, and some other design changes that would bring a gas line to the space to allow for a gas stove and other cooking equipment. We're still sort of midway in those negotiations and trying to determine what would work best for him in terms of having a longer lease or a longer concession period, those sorts of things. So we still are discussing those things actively with him, but you know, he sounds pretty amenable to paying for at least a portion of the infrastructure costs as well as the build out costs. So we anticipate that $550,000 number that was mentioned earlier to be much lower than that. You know, I think we had previously submitted, before we even went to the change order panel, we had previously submitted a letter on the $40,000 design costs, which I think the county will probably end up having to bear. But much of the rest of that $550,000, I think will, you know, we're hoping at least that we can get our vendor to cover it. And to date, he seems pretty willing to do so. So.
And just as a clarification, Commissioner Anderson, I know you know this as well as Mark, because you all were part of the discussion we had. The reason that we came to the commission panel for approval of those costs is because, you know, we wanted to give Rock the approval to go forward with those changes. And so in effect, although we were confident that that number would be drastically reduced and we try to get it as close to zero as we possibly could, it would not have been appropriate for us to give Rock the go ahead to perform that construction task without getting the approval from this panel, just in case things did not work out with the vendor. But we have no reason to believe that they won't. And so we just were trying to be conservative in that regard. And so that's why we came to you initially.
James, when would we anticipate this will be locked down, an agreement will be reached?
Your lips to God's ears. You know, I would hope within the next month or two, quite frankly. You know, so when we're sitting here in March, by that time, I'd hope to be able to have something that the commission, that this committee will be able to take a look at, as well as the entire commission approve. And, you know, we've made the commitment in our conversations previously, as you know, Mr. Chairman, to give this committee a heads up, or at least the opportunity to review it, because you all, in terms of the commission, know the most about, you know, what is going on because of the updates we've been providing. And so I'd hope by March we'd be able to have that concluded.
Okay, all right.
You know, I'll bet Carter's job on it.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Heath, and maybe with the other, are there any other commissioners, I should ask, any other commissioners that are on the committee that have questions? Mark, do you have anything at this point?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This is-
Anyone that's not on the commission, that's not on the committee, I should say?
Chairman, this is Felicia.
Yes, Felicia. Yeah.
Just to the point, since we were having a discussion regarding the change order committee, just for everyone's information, and I believe Commissioner Kinlock should be aware of this, but as you know, the commission has 3 appointments to that change order committee, and the CEO's office, the executive, has 3. Bernard Parker was a member of that, but he's no longer with the county. So Chairwoman Bell has determined that Commissioner Kinlock would actually be our 3rd individual. So now it'll be yourself, Mr. Kinlock, and Mark Abbo as the members of that change order committee, for everyone's information.
Thank you.
Welcome, Commissioner. Mr. Mr. Chairman, if I might, can I ask Victoria
Sure.
to come forward and provide some updates as well?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. I know it's late, but Happy New Year. It's the first time I'm seeing many of you. I would like to say welcome to the commission, to Commissioner Kinlock, but welcome to the committee to Commissioner Baydoun and Commissioner Kinlock. We're going to throw a lot of information at you.
Thank you.
Just to kind of go back but go forward, part of what I do is I continue to report on all of the inclusion efforts on the project. That includes workforce as well as when we're tracking spend for county-based, the workforce hours as well as the spend when we look at small, minority, women, and county-based firms. I will start off with an apology. You should be getting a report from me in the next few days. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to figure out how to tweak it, but literally the reporting day is either the day before at 4 o'clock or the exact same day because of the timing in the month that we receive the reports. But I can tell you that our trend, just as I spoke of when we're talking about workforce, is going up. Part of what we saw for a minute was some lower workforce numbers, but some of that is because we're on a singular or only 1 or 2 trades. When we were only doing the iron work, when you deal with smaller number of trades, you have a smaller group to pull from. But our numbers for workforce are trending upwards, and you will have an exact number in the report. I just got the information. I always like to review it and vet it and make sure I'm seeing the same thing and the numbers are correct. Our spend as well, we're tracking in an upward mobility. And speaking of upward, I want to give you an update on what we're doing with the FF&E. You know, that's the furniture fixtures section as we have coming up. So right now, part of what we're doing is I literally am ending up with 3 to 4 meetings day after day after day. We're going with CGL, also with Blue Source, which is our procurement team that's working with our procurement team, meaning Aaron, when we're going to let these bids. What we're doing is we're working with HOK, the architect, and each of the end users, such as the court or the clerk's office or the sheriff's admin team for their building, to go through all of the nuances that are going to be composing the FF&E bid. Part of what we're doing is making sure that architecturally, it will meet the needs of the end user and everything is captured. It can be as simple as a space in the beginning looking like it was going to need 2 desks and they realized they only need 1. They, in the beginning, thought maybe we were going to use couches, but now with COVID, they want to use the chair system that are more like interlocking. So at some point you can make them a chair or you can divide them up for the 6 feet apart for social distancing. So it's small tweaks to the needs of each end user and making sure that those users' needs are met. They're looking at durability, economics. Does it make sense? Is it cost effective? They're looking for a timeless look. Also a coordinated look across the board. So you're not going to have 16th century look and then all of a sudden modern classic in another office. And then making sure that it is going to work for all of the end users. So they're literally going through, you know, do you need a file cabinet? Do you need this? It's the tedious work, but it's trying to ensure that all of the needs of the end user have been assessed and those questions have been answered. And then as they build the bids and the bid packaging, we are able to get a wider breadth. That's part of what my insertion is, to ensure that we don't make something narrow to the fact that we do not have the opportunity for inclusion or just a wider breadth for more businesses to participate. So that is part of what we're doing because we know the FF&E bids are coming a little bit later down the line. Possibly mid-year, which will be maybe early summer, late summer. So we have some time. So what we're also trying to do as we understand what the needs are and what the bids are going to be, making sure that we have as many users as we can that are certified and registered and able to do business so that they too will have the opportunity to bid on the FF&E packages that are coming down the turnpike. So I have been literally knee deep right now in all of those. Going well. There's odd things that you learn, weird education, like different type of fire extinguishers, you know, the little emergency lights that you just take for granted. There's just plug them in, you know, to the light source. There's all kind of wonderful nuances that I never knew. So right now it really is trying to ensure that all the needs are met. And then two, that those needs can translate into a wide breadth of opportunity for our vendors, county-based, women-owned, minority, and that we can make sure we have a really robust community when it comes time to bid. James, am I forgetting anything?
No, I think it's pretty comprehensive. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, Victoria.
Yes.
Chair Anderson, I just wanted to ask you, are there any other bid packages still to go out other than the furniture and those type of and equipment? Those
Yes.
are probably going to be one of the later bids.
Yes, we have one that was put out and pulled back, and that was when you're talking about some of your hard fixtures, some of the door work, some of the windows, some of the little trim work. I think they have to tweak some of that. Once you start building, obviously when it starts coming into sight and you see how things butt up against each other, they're realizing there's still a few tweaks that I think HOK had to make within that package, and possibility of breaking some of that up. I mean, they're looking for fire extinguishers, different type of proofing. So that got pulled back. I'm hoping to find out in the next week or two the new date for that. I know softscapes and hardscapes are gonna come later down the line. That's when you get into, you know, throwing grass seed for those bald spots, making sure that we have the mounds built up correctly, that we're planting back trees. So we have a few of the other bids. It's just the timing in the project that have not been let yet. So you'll see some smaller tweaks in that as well. So you have at least two that are coming down the turnpike.
Okay, all right. All right. Anything else that you have?
Just 2 points, and one of them speaks to Commissioner Baydoun's question about COVID. You know, I won't say we, but the developer and the contractor, specifically Barton Malow, have done a really good job of keeping our work site COVID free. There have been, as you can imagine, some instances in which construction workers have had to quarantine just based upon their own exposure to COVID in their regular lives, family members, friends, whatever. But to date, there have been no confirmed transmissions on our project site. And so that is one of the things that has allowed us to continue working at a good rate. And so they should be applauded for those efforts. And of course, now that I've mentioned it, I'll have bad numbers for you next month. I'm positive, but for right now, things have been going really well. I also like to point out, and this is in the report, and this strikes me as a milestone. The construction folks can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but with the erection of the JDF, which should be complete by February, that will mean that all structures on the site have been erected, and so that strikes me as a milestone that we will be very proud of. Hopefully, by the next time we visit with this committee. I'd also say that at the end of last year, county executive, deputy county executive, and I did do a tour of the facility, and it was really quite impressive to see what started as nothing come to look, you know, like a real complex. And so I know it was a little bit warmer then, and I know this committee has talked about scheduling a visit. I will leave it to Jay and Bill to communicate with the contractor about when that can be done in a safe manner. I don't know if the colder weather makes it more complicated now, but certainly as soon as we can, and through your office, Commissioner Anderson, if folks want to take a tour, it really does help to provide some context to what we're looking at, especially if we're talking about the members of the panel. At least you can see what we're talking about when when we come to you with things.
Right.
You know, we continue to work so much of my day and Carter's day and Bill and Jay. We spend going over items, potential changes, or items that should be part of the base contract with the developer. As you can imagine, we have robust conversations with Rath on those issues on a almost a daily basis. We have whittled down all of our open issues to I'll say several dozen to 50 or so. And that sounds like a lot, but we started with well over 800 issues that we had to discuss with them. And so CGL's been a strong partner with us, our entire county team, and we continue to work through those issues. And when we get to a point where we've resolved something or we think that there needs to be additional funding, that's the point at which we come to you. And so a good example, Commissioner Anderson, as you know, and it's just for the benefit of Commissioners Baydoun and Kinlock, prior to bringing the kitchen issues to your attention, I think we have been talking about them generally for at least several months. And so you're not surprised when we bring something to you. And so we continue to be engaged in that process. And as things materialize, we will certainly let you know.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Heath. I did want to back up just a little bit. And I was mistaken about getting something just before noon. I did get something, but it was the email from last night that was forwarded to me, I didn't get it until a few minutes before noon, so it was not on your end.
We beat you by a whole 24 hours.
That's right.
We'll take small victories.
So I did have a quick question too about, there seems to be different faces, different people that with CGL. And I'm just wondering, it seems like there's a bit of turnover. Is there any concern at this point that we've seen, and no offense to our new guest here that's here, but it does seem as though there's different representatives happening with CGL. And is that a concern? Or can you explain what's happening?
So, I mean, it's not a concern. What I will say is that there's an entire, and you may recall from the contract discussions when we hired CGL, there's a whole CGL team that is not forward facing to this committee that's kind of working behind the scenes. And so I'll give you a really great example in the form of Jay Shandor. Before Jay became a part of this team, he was working in the background, reviewing drawings and really familiarizing himself with our project. And so Jay was not a new face to the county's project, although he was a new face to all of you. But the team that's kind of working, on the ground every day has remained the same for the most part, with the exception of Steve Ohm, who left the project in the fall of last year. And I don't know whether we discussed this at our prior meeting, but Mr. Ohm unfortunately passed away.
Oh, no.
Late last year. And so that was certainly a blow to CGL, a surprise to the county as well. And so the short answer to your question, Commissioners, is no. Frankly, as the project has become more complicated, I mean, we're working on several different levels. The actual construction, but then, which is in some respects kind of the easiest thing that happens, but then there's the continual negotiations on potential changes, structure of things that frankly just requires more people. And so other members of the team, Bill Lawhorn, and others who are working on our construction, rather our end user transition project, because it's not just building the facility or managing change orders, it's also preparing our end users to move in.
Mm-hmm.
And, one example of that is, the project was designed to be for the end users to be as paperless as possible, because we just did not want to pay for, storage of, boxes and boxes and boxes of documents that we didn't have to. And so one of the things that our CGL transition partners are working with us on is, making sure that the scanning and other things that need to be in place for the folks who are going to actually occupy the facility, so that they will be able to operate there effectively. And that also means dealing with the existing boxes and things that they have right now. So, I mean, we don't want to bring old stuff into a new facility if we don't have to. And so I guess my answer to you is that as the complexity of things expands, so does our CGL team. And, so we've been happy so far, and we continue to work hard with them and grow in that regard. And the addition of Bill Rath is just a good example of that.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions by committee members at this time? Any questions by other commissioners that may be online right now? And Mark, any other questions that you might have right now?
No, not at this time, Commissioner.
Okay, Felicia?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes, go back to Commissioner Kinlock.
Yes, sorry about that. So, well, I did send in the chat a request for information regarding the creation of and some background information as relates to the change order committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
We can, Felicia, can you provide that to Commissioner Kinlock?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Should be all set. Any other questions? Commissioner Kinlock, you still have the floor. Did you have any other questions?
Oh, no, that concludes my questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mark, you said you had no questions at this time?
No, I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, James, that you'd like to add? Or I anticipate we'll have a meeting next month and be on a regular schedule now.
Yeah, not at this point, but obviously if anything comes up, we'll be in direct contact with you, Mr. Chairman, and you can disseminate that information to the other members of the committee as you have in the past.
Okay. Did all commissioners get the report that came in last night or late yesterday afternoon?
I did. Yep, I did.
Oh, you did? Commissioner Kinlock, did you receive it? Commissioner.
What you said, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Kinlock, did you receive the information that was sent out yesterday by email?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Commissioner Varga, did you indicate that you wanted to say something or question?
No, I was just going to say that I received it, but I didn't want to think that they left you out, so I didn't say anything.
Thank you. So are there any other, one more time, any other questions from any committee member or commissioner online? Seeing none, I guess we'll move the agenda.
E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Are there any other such matters that should be submitted before the committee? We haven't received anything, have we, from anyone? Okay. And next.
Public comments.
Are there any comments from the public that are tuned in? Anyone else that's on the line for the meeting that would like to make a comment or have a question? One last time, anyone from the public? And Madam Clerk, could you make sure that everyone's is live and not muted right at this time?
Yes, everyone is unmuted.
Okay, have we received any emails?
No, no emails have been submitted.
Okay, and no other communication, anyone wishing to comment? If there are none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move adjournment.
So moved.
Commissioner Kinlock.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, and the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you all.